Welcome to the Echo Essentials podcast.
I'm Scott Clark.
And I'm Dave Dale. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to replay a few clips from the council meeting a week and a bit ago, the June 18th meeting. And there's a number of different issues that were brought up there, and Scott and I are going to play a couple clips. You'll see them, and we're going to comment about the issue and what people are saying.
How long did you cover City Council for?
I took over probably 2002. Yeah.
And is that a
And
is
I
that
think
an
I had
assignment?
about a 4-year run. Yeah.
4 years?
3 or 4 year run.
Is that an assignment like a journalist wants? Or is that like a junior assignment? Or?
Oh, yeah. We would push somebody under a bus for that. Yeah, for sure.
Really? That's the meaty one to have City Council?
Yeah. And when I first joined the Nugget, August 8th, 2000, I was expecting to be covering City Council. Then they went and hired another guy, that Phil Novak.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Phil Novak.
So he usurped my entry into City Council. So he got that first year.
Yeah.
And then a number of things that he did ended up, he got tossed. So
what
then
was
I
it
could
that
do
Phil,
it.
yeah, why was he controversial? I'm trying to remember. I remember him, but I'm trying to remember what... There's things that people got irked by him, and I can't remember what it was.
Well, he killed a mayor in Mattawa that wasn't dead in a court in a story.
What?
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
He said the late so and so, right? And they weren't.
And they weren't late yet?
No, they weren't late.
That's not a good sign when you're reading the paper back then.
And then he was covering a court case where he said the victim's family was there and they were there for the verdict, and they weren't. He just made it up because it was like good color. There was a number of other reasons why I had disdain for this guy.
So you weren't buddies.
Rest in peace for him. You know, he passed away.
Oh, he passed away?
Yeah, he passed away.
He wasn't an old guy?
No, he had a pancreatic cancer, I think.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and he was down with his family in Niagara. But I didn't respect him as a journalist at all.
Why do you think in this day and age he would be these really clickbaity headlines he would produce? That would be his style, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, he went to Bay Today. He was the first editor for Bay Today.
That's why. Okay.
Yeah, right. And he was just no holds barred and no rules or ethics, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
He thought he was a big fish in a little pond here. I'd hear him. He'd throw his bare foot up on the desk. He'd be talking to his brother, talking about how great he was and how many stories he had on the front page. And I just wanted to, yes.
Where was he before the Nugget?
He scabbed at the Calgary strike, and that's where Joe Belanger met him, so that's why he hired him. So he was a scab, right, working that strike a long time ago.
Yeah.
And, of course, I don't agree with that.
So next time you're in, maybe you know this, next time you're in City Hall or in the council chambers, our Kevin Hoffman did original artwork that Vic Fideli donated to council.
Right.
So all that artwork in there is our Kevin Hoffman's beautiful original paintings.
Well, yeah, there's some beautiful stuff.
Yeah, really beautiful stuff.
And when you mentioned Vic, there's another Phil story.
Tell me more.
Well, another reason why I didn't respect him very much, he was working with Vic on the airport property story.
Okay.
So Vic was feeding him the stuff, right, for the stories. And I was in Casey's one day, and he's sitting there having lunch with Vic. Vic's sitting reading the newspaper, and Phil's just filling his face, right? Right? He would Colin Besna didn't like him because he'd go to the police board meetings and fill his pockets full of we used to have a buffet, right? So he...
no, for someone who was in media, like myself, we never got paid well. You never got paid well.
Well, that's the other thing.
That's how you got the media there, is you had a little luncheon, so they showed up.
I give Phil a break because he was trying to support his family that were out of town. They didn't want to come here either. So he was living away from his family down south.
Oh.
And he ended up... he got some cheap rent off some people that were involved with political stuff. Right? So he was in conflict, getting cheap rent at a place. And then when he lost that, he came and he was living in our boardroom, for Christ's sake.
No.
Yeah.
So how would he do that? When everybody, okay, good night.
Oh, yeah,
we'd
be working a night shift. All of a sudden, Phil come down his bare feet there and he'd go be checking out people's lunches in the fridge there. He was an interesting character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, I didn't really. Anyway, so I ended up, he took that spot. I had to wait a year and then I got the spot.
Okay.
right? And so then I worked council for a good 3 years, and our editor, they wanted me to just brief things and not write stories. And I said, that's a half-assed way of going about things. You got to write the story before you can make comment about it, I thought. Right?
Yeah.
You let people, but they just want to get into quick briefs because they already knew that people weren't reading very much. And so I said, well, give it to somebody else. Gord took it over. And I started writing columns for 5 or 7 years.
After that.
So I was writing columns.
But you would still, even if you weren't covering it, you would still take it in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I did 10 meetings too. And
So just something you said there. So it's not just you and I working together. It's whoever you worked with you disagree with constantly.
not necessarily true.
Oh, well, I don't know. I haven't met someone or you haven't talked about someone that you haven't disagreed with or they weren't doing it right and you were.
Well, I always have an opinion about whatever's going on. Right?
Yes, you have your opinion for sure.
Well, and they wanted to do something different than I wanted, so I said, fine, go ahead. I went and did something else, and I played a different role, which is, still on the team.
Why were you so aggressive about Phil being a scab?
Well, I was a union guy, a union president with the Nugget, and we don't respect people that would cross a picket line.
But they, the management team, and by the way, I was part of the union with the Toronto Star for a time. So it's not like I haven't been part of a union.
Yeah.
But to keep that business running, they have to hire scabs to keep it going, or else nobody will have a job eventually, right? If they can't shut the newspaper down.
Well, they could negotiate properly so that it's no strike.
And I'm sure they're saying the same about you, that you could negotiate properly and there wouldn't be a strike.
That's what collective bargaining is all about.
I know.
They have their position, we have ours. We try to come in the middle, and sometimes there's a strike that's in between.
But why would you vilify people?
Why would you call them a scab?
Yeah.
Because that's what you call people that cross a picket line. Hey, they know that. The people that do it know that's what they're going to get called, right?
Yeah, but you vilified him from the outset. He's just trying to make a living, trying to get by, figuring it out. He's not going to get once the strike settled. I doubt very much he would ever get back in, right? People who cross picket lines generally don't get a full-time job after.
Well,
They're
he
just
did
getting
at the
their
Nugget. The guys that were
but
scabbing
across the country. He had to travel across the country and live in a boardroom, for God's sakes. It doesn't sound like Phil's life was that sexy, to be honest.
Well, no, but this is life choices, right?
Yeah, but
and he made the choice.
You're just kicking him when he's down, for goodness sake. The guy's just trying to make it work. You're a
kick
tough
him,
monkey.
I could kick him for many other reasons. Because when he got here, I didn't respect his journalism either.
Okay. So let's talk about city council, though.
Okay, let's back to city council.
So what are we going to do here? We're going to go bit by bit?
Yeah, we're going to have a couple, we'll do a clip, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll do another clip. But first, a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back after that.
North Bay Echo is proud to partner with Twigg's Coffee Roasters, a part of the community since 1995. Twigg's offers a wide selection of quality beans, fresh roasted in-house every day. Find your favorite specialty drinks at our espresso bar, rejuvenate with freshly squeezed juice, or treat yourself to mouth-watering selections from our gourmet deli. And don't forget our irresistible fresh baked goods, including uncompromising gluten-free options. Twiggs has 5 locations to serve you, from North Bay to Sturgeon Falls to Sudbury. Order online for pickup at twigs.ca. And coming soon, you'll be able to order fresh roasted coffee beans direct to your doorstep from our distribution center in North Bay.
So this first video is a clip of Councillor Mark King. It's his second comment on this issue. It's the chamber looking for support for the RNIP program. And his first comment took people a bit of aback. They were thinking that it was almost anti-immigration. And then there was a number of comments from Tanya and a few others, and Mac, who thought, they just wanted to make sure everybody knew that they were pro-immigration. And then Mark had a chance to clarify what he was saying. And then there's a couple others. The next clip after that will be a speech by Lana Mitchell, who she covers a little bit of different stuff.
I certainly think it was important actually to respond to two comments, certainly by Councillor Gardner. And this is exactly what needed to be done. Canadore College stepped up to the table. They found the money. They realized that there was a problem with respect to housing with international students, and they've solved that problem. They've done that, and they need to be commended. I think the question or the response that I'm trying to get here at this point is to recognize that the federal government, through FedNor, has not met the demands of municipalities and of social service agencies. It's been unbelievably frustrating to watch what's going on. And unless we stand up and we say, look it, if you want more immigration, you want to bring more people into these communities, you need to step up to the table and figure out how we provide housing, how we provide doctors, because quite frankly, the situation is in a crisis mode, I believe, at this point, and it's incredibly frustrating to watch these things go on when there's no answers to it. And anyways, I appreciate the second opportunity, Your Worship. I understand what council is talking about, but there are tremendous challenges out there, and we all know it. I know every last one of you know it. We've got to figure out how to get around it.
Now that we've seen that, what did you think of that, Scott?
Well, he's the head of social services, so I get it. I don't know if they're at the crisis mode yet. Generally, and this is, I don't have the data, it's just what I visually see. It looks like it's a lot of young people that are here that have immigrated, right? And so they're probably not using a lot of the services that are sort of at the breaking point already. Doctors, hospitals, it's generally as people get older, they use those. So, but it's getting there. So they make a good point. Now that I'm thinking about what's it called? The RNIP? RNIP? Yeah. So
I think there's another name for it.
So the federal government has designated certain areas, and if they go through this program, immigrants, then they can fast track, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm really curious now what the government gave to this area. Did they just give them money to build a website and one full-time salary? Is that what they gave? I don't know what they gave.
Right.
When, like, if the head of social services is saying, hey, we need some help here. You open up this door. This is fantastic that we're getting this immigration, but you haven't done anything else to supplement, this door opening up and people coming into this area.
Yeah, the bigger picture services and the supports, infrastructure, there's not enough of it to handle the wave of immigration is basically what I hear him saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we know what the government gave to designate this one of these areas that has a nice website that fast tracks them?
No, I don't know exactly what funding comes with it. I think he's speaking more to the other provincial and federal funding with other infrastructure frustrations he has.
Well, for sure. But you would think if they're going to institute this program, people will be attracted to it, which makes sense. You want people to come to Northern Ontario, like all of these things, right? But is it just like one full-time person to administrate it and money for marketing? That was it? When, people coming here need a whole lot more supports, so they go to social services, right?
I think a lot of these other frustrations are more to do like the hot files like housing, and he's up to his knees in the homelessness stuff, and there's a lot of different things that need to be done for the people that are here, right? That isn't being done. So more people, he says, well, if you're going to bring more people, we need more money, and we have to build up the capacity to deal with it.
What does Lana say?
Well, she had a really good example of how the immigration process sometimes impacts people in ways we don't see coming, and it hurts their chances of success.
I will be supporting this pilot project going forward. I have seen some excellent successes, but maybe to go at it from a different approach to what I think Councillor King was trying to get at is that recently I've it's come to my attention that there's a single mom in town with 3 kids who will probably end up at a local shelter soon, came over as a student, and her work visa expired, but she had a job and was full-time working and employed and doing her job, and in a PSW position, which is desperately needed in the community. The backlog to get paperwork renewed federally is a huge problem too. So that when we're advocating for these things, we have to make sure all the pieces are there and that everything is there. This woman did exactly what she said she was going to do and come over here. Total success story, got the job, paying her market rent on her own, taking care and raising 3 kids. And now she had to quit her job and isn't allowed to work because the federal paperwork didn't come in on time. That's what's wrong when the levels of government don't talk to each other. So I think that this program, and I've seen examples of how successful it can be, but I think it's critical that we do advocate up to the other levels and that they don't become a barrier, but become a true partner when we put these types of programs into place. Thank you.
There's the Lana I endorsed. I think her passion and
I love
feelings.
Lana.
Yeah.
She's bang on. It's such a massive mountain that has to be moved to make why can't we all be lined up here to provide the supports required? Is Lana performing how you thought she would perform on council?
I have to admit I haven't been to the meetings and in person to see her in action, and I haven't watched 100% of all the videos.
Yeah.
So I thought she would be a little bit more of a counterbalance to Peter and what I thought was going to be his mandate, right? But I think they're all sort of getting along pretty good, and they've figured out some common ground. Mm-hmm. Gary and her get along and are on a couple committees together, so that seems to be working there. I don't think the issues have been there. I always knew she'd be good when there is an issue. Yeah. Like she'd be doing, heartfelt, compassionate, passionate stuff based on experience when it was needed. Yeah. But the first year of this council has been kind of wonky. It was a lot of kind of infighting. There's a lot, I don't think it was a really good example of what she could be as a councillor. So.
Yeah, I thought, in my head, it would be more pounding on the desk and, But I like the Lana I see. Like what I just saw there, I really like, she seemed like when I hear her speak there, like you're the smartest in the room on this. Like
genuine.
Yeah, she's really genuine about what she's saying. She's not making it up. She's not reading from a note that someone sent her or whatever happens to be, right? She knows how those things go down for human beings that she deals with day in and day out, and how broken the system is and how she fights every day to try and figure out how to do it. And she's probably, I think the other side of her too that sometimes we forget is she understands about bureaucracies and how it works. And it doesn't make her happy, but she can probably navigate pretty well within, council's bureaucracies as well, right? Yeah. So I'm really happy with her. For some reason in my head, I thought she'd be like fire and brimstone, but I like the way she is. I think you're right. I don't think the issue where Lana stands out has come before us yet.
Yeah, no, I think
it'll come though.
And we got to remember also the beginning of her term, she had a family loss, right? And then there was all that infighting that nobody would want to be involved with, right? So, and I like the way she introduced that at the beginning of her speech saying, I think the points Mark was kind of getting at, and she had her own example. I liked how she went about that.
Me too. What else do we have?
Well, we do have an interesting Airbnb thing happening where down on Campbell, there's a gentleman that came, Mr. Dokis, that pointing out to the city that their complaint system is like screaming into an abyss because there's no follow-up. So if you make a comment or a complaint, he hasn't experienced that he's any satisfaction from it. But he also, brought out a little bit of, put a microscope on how the Airbnb sort of system has worked so far. right? They short-term rentals they call them, right?
Yeah. Is there what? I'm not
It's
sure.
a short-term rental bylaw.
What is? Should we see if the clip first and then talk about it?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's watch the clip and we'll talk.
Councillor Inch.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm curious, is it the noise that is the biggest problem?
Well, I mean, the biggest problem is that it's a violation of the bylaw. That's the biggest problem. And it hasn't been, due diligence hasn't been done to enforce the bylaw. I mean, the biggest problem won't happen until it happens. One of my kids was standing waiting for the bus, and one of the guests missed the driveway and slid along the gravel. Now, it didn't almost hit her, but it was 20 feet. But this is what I'm saying about the liability thing. The biggest problem will happen when it happens. And when you have people that you don't know, as the earlier people were talking about, constantly coming into the neighborhood who don't know the neighborhood, don't know the people, don't have the same kind of respect for the neighborhood, then bad things can happen. And I don't know that I'd be sitting in front of you at any point in time saying, is this the worst that can happen? Do you know what I mean? Noise is noise. But, people coming to your door and cars coming and going. Picture yourself there, I guess, is all I can say to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And so, is there any follow-up to this? Or because one of my other concerns and that I brought up at the bylaw office is when you file an online, concern, there's no receipt of information on there. So there's absolutely no way to know if any concerns are ever dealt with, addressed in any way.
Well, I think a little bit more context is that what he was pointing out is that his neighbor doesn't actually live in that house, and they got their license because it was based on somebody being there for the short-term rentals. And he was alleging, because I haven't documented, but he was saying that the owner actually lives in the house beside that, and they don't actually live in the property that they're renting out. So he was saying that was, he's actually saying it's probably fraud because they applied for it under this premise, because to be in an R1 zone for the short-term rentals, you have to qualify by actually living in the home, and that's being your residence. So he was, and who knows, I suspect that there's some other stuff going on in his neighbors.
Yeah. It's really interesting when Sarah Inch asked the question about, is it the noise? And he's like, no, it's the bylaw. It's only because I live in the area, and this is complete hearsay, and so I know a little bit. I think the two neighbors just don't get along, right? And this is just amping it up, right? Yeah. And because what I do know is they actually did live in that house only because the other one had a fire. So they lived in that house.
Maybe at the time of the application.
Maybe. I don't know, but they did live in that house. I know it. It's a small community. You sort of know different things. And it's like when I first saw this, I went, oh, and like I coached Doug's son in hockey. So I know Doug too. Like I know the people involved in this. And I know what it's like not to get along with your neighbor. It's like the worst situation. But this goes up another level. Like it's not, we used to have an Airbnb, a few houses near us, like on the lake, and when people come up and they're living, like they're cottaging on the lake, they bring up fireworks every single time. So every weekend it was fireworks time. Like when people come to the lake, it's fireworks, baby, right? And so the dog would be losing his mind, right, every weekend when the fireworks came out. But neither here nor there. We've always had a good experience and haven't had any problems. But it is interesting that when you file a complaint, I don't think it comes back around. Like, let's say something did happen. Like, I have fireworks at my house. Someone files a noise complaint. When someone files that complaint, somebody, I don't think, ever comes back and says, hey, we went to the door, we did this, we did that. You imagine the administration around that if you had to follow up with everybody who made a complaint? How does he know that they haven't followed up?
Well, he hasn't been contacted. I'm assuming that.
What, the guy he's talking about with the Airbnb? How would he know he wasn't contacted?
Well, he wasn't contacted about his complaint. That's what he was saying, that he has no idea if anybody's doing anything. So you make a complaint and then there's silence. And you don't know. Should I complain again? Is it going to go anywhere? Is anybody really going to do anything?
Okay, we'll go on to the next clip. But this is what I want to say before we go on.
Yeah.
I so want a bylaw officer in here because you know what? We know nothing about their day-to-day job.
Yeah,
We think we know.
Yeah.
I bet you the stories that they can probably share without names and stuff will raise our hair. Like it's probably insane, the stuff they have to deal with day in and day out with neighbors fighting, not getting along, stuff happening. Like, it's got to be crazy town. That would be a really interesting interview.
Yeah.
How many phone calls would they get about stuff from dogs barking to Airbnb? And how many bylaw officers are there? Probably 2, 3 max.
I think just 2.
Two?
Yeah.
Like, there's 2 bylaw officers.
And maybe a few that are used for tickets and stuff like that.
Is it the ticket officers considered bylaw officers?
They might be at the same sort of level, but I think you have to be a senior bylaw officer to make a punishment. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's have them in.
Yeah, bylaw
this would be
officer,
really
sure.
good.
Yeah.
But just to ask the question is like, okay, when I call because, and it's going to be something silly like my neighbor's dog is always barking, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, they have so many other things. Where does that go in the pile?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, as you know, I'm a little jaded, and because I hear all the stories about people that are not happy after they contact the bylaw officer and they don't get what they want, and they think the bylaw officer takes the other person's side, and I hear all those stories. So it's really hard to tell, and I don't know how open they can be about it, because I'm sure that there's lawsuits either just hovering away.
Yeah.
Who knows? But very interesting stuff, because that's one of the key parts of the city's ability to enforce things, right? Mm-hmm. And they do it on a complaints basis. So I'd be interested in to see what kind of,
And who's the bylaw officer's boss? Who do they fall under?
Well, I'm sure they eventually it'd be the CAO, right?
But is it CAO direct? Like, who would be? Like,
there'd be a manager in between. Community services, more likely.
Services, probably.
I suspect it's under community services.
That'd be interesting to see where the hierarchy is with that, where the bylaw officer falls under.
And then who's ever chair of the community services.
Just so we can, because it's a small town, we can actually call the boss over the bylaw officer.
Yeah, you can go straight there. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. So that's a good idea.
Yeah. What's our next clip?
So, Peter, getting back to the liability issue, and we talked about $2 million coverage from a liability standpoint, I guess it would be fair to say right now a 600-foot drilled well probably would cost about $25,000 to $30,000. So if the one gentleman lost his water supply and there was liability insurance in place.
Sorry, Councillor King. We are not able to go too much into questions.
Let me try and rephrase that. Does liability insurance cover the landowner in this case? No?
Sorry, we're not able to. We're actually running really short on time right now, so I might.
I'll stop the question.
Yeah, but thank you.
What is going on?
Well, this was part of the meeting where they were talking about somebody on Whitfield Station Road wanting to create 5 estate lots on their property, and the neighbors that are around there are concerned about that development and requiring a lot of blasting that may affect their wells, right? And Peter Sorello was fielding those questions. I saw what I saw, and I haven't checked yet. We were going to have to. Justine was looking at the clerk, and the clerk was giving her some kind of indication that this was. It looked like to me like a no-go zone. Don't talk about the liability insurance for some reason.
Why?
I don't know. it seemed kind of
But
odd,
it was,
right?
yeah, it didn't. It looked like she was looking at the clerk,
Yeah.
right? And then what was really interesting at the end there, she was saying like, "Oh, we're running out of time."
Yeah.
I was like, "What?
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah,
on?"
two different things happening there.
But Mark usually will lean in a little bit more, but he backed off fairly quickly too.
Yeah, I think he figured it was a warning not to go there, and then he used that the excuse that she brought up with time and said, "Okay, no problem."
So is it because a statement made at council could be set a precedent for insurance for the community?
No, I think that insurance is I'm not sure exactly what insurance he was talking about and what 2 million limit is. I think it was for the people doing the development in case they affect somebody's well. But I wasn't interested up until they stopped talking about it. Then I got interested.
Yeah, I totally with you. I had an experience back when they were changing all the water meters?
Yeah.
Which I was completely against doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was silliness. And they changed them here in the office. Now, our water meter is inside the building, right? And they changed our water meter. And it must have been before a long weekend or something like that. Change it out. Not a big deal. It was all city people here, the trucks, everything. Change it all out and things are done. Great. Everything's good. I come in on the Monday or after the break, whatever break we had, and I walk into the back and the whole floor is like squish, squish, squish. There's water everywhere, right? And I go, what is going on? So I actually go to the hatch where the water meter is. I open it up and there's this little, and it was just like a pinprick of water. It wasn't a gush of water. It was just over time, that little bit of water was like spraying out and flooded the office, right? And I'll never forget that a supervisor came in. Everybody was very nice, right? Supervisor came in. I just called them. They came over right away and then gave me this letter that looked like it had been photocopied 8,000 times, right? Like it's all blurry and everything and said, "Sorry, Scott. I have to give you this letter." And the letter basically said, "We're not liable for any damage that was caused by the leaky." And I go, hang on. I just got to say this. How are you not liable if you come in, you change it, it's not changed properly, it floods my place, and nobody else has touched it? How am I liable or anybody else? Sorry. It's like, that's insane. Like, so there's all these liable laws and different things that we get into that the city deals with all the time.
Yeah, and I think that really speaks to what really, that's the fear of the other neighbors, right? Something's going to happen, and they're going to be left having to fight to get the thing
20,
covered.
30 grand.
Right. Like, not only that, like they're into insurances, fighting each other. You have to prove what caused it. You're into civil court, right? And nobody wants to end up there to try to fix something. Right. And that's the fear. And it's not very clear once city council approves something like this. Like, I think they just sort of, okay, you have to deal with their business. Whoever did the blasting, you have to deal with them. It's not in our hands anymore.
Wow.
Right? And that's what you don't want to have to, like, it's very similar about getting a ticket from a camera up and a radar thing. Yeah, you could fight it. Ugh. Right? Who has time for that?
Right. Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, we talked about that when we were the cameras giving out tickets at the intersections.
Yeah.
And you said, well, you can fight it. And I'm like, yeah, you can go to court. You can fight it.
You have
can try.
time. You have lots of time, for God's sakes. And you would probably get joyful. It'd be like Christmas Day, you get to fight something in court.
It would become content.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like having to, go into civil court and hire lawyers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
though. And nobody does. Yeah. And that's the point. Everybody's just fearful that what they have is going to change, and they're not going to be helped to get it back to where it was. Mm-hmm. And all this, liability insurance.
So. And then up in that area, isn't that like the PFAS area and everything too?
No.
No?
Not as much.
Okay.
No. But they just lost their paved road, and they got all pulverized.
Oh, really?
And so they no longer have a paved road up on Whittlefield Station Road, and then now there's going to be more construction and more traffic, and they're like, how about us out here, right? I thought you said you want to infill. Why are you approving these things?
Right.
And the city's in a situation where, unless there's really good reason and they already have a good bylaw and there's a plan that says that they're not going to okay these things,
Yeah.
they have to approve it.
Just one point on this. So why would Mark have to back off? Is he protecting the city or is he protecting the constituents? Do you know what I mean? Like, who's he protecting in this moment? Or who's Justine protecting in this moment?
I think I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, of course, because they have good intentions, that they were protecting the council as a whole and the city from putting their foot in their mouth by opening up and talking about something that might be used against them when this gets to the tribunal stage.
Gotcha.
Probably something like that.
Yeah.
We'll have to. I'd like to have Justine in.
Yeah.
She can explain it. We haven't had her in for any of the podcasts yet, and that it might be good for us to meet her and find out what she's all about.
I'm going to use that in my next board meeting. Oh, we're running out of time.
No.
We're jam-packed.
We're
I'm
just
running out
jam-packed.
of time.
And it's funny, they went on for quite a while after that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
What do we have next? This is a good, pretty good council meeting. I like the insight.
Well,
on
I
some of
think
this stuff.
people are missing out by not watching and paying attention to council because
It's
there's
hard, though. Come on.
I know it's like 2 hours and 47-minute
know.
meeting, right? And but maybe we should pick out more of these things for people so they get the highlights. So the next one is going to be about. It looks like the mayor is going to have a car allowance.
Item 6.9, moved by Councillor Inch, seconded by Councillor Mallah. The council authorized the chief administrative officer to update the council remuneration bylaw to include a vehicle allowance of $7,200 for the mayor. And 2, the updated council remuneration bylaw applies to the Consumer Price Index, CPI, from the previous year as the mechanism to index vehicle allowance.
Ms. Wukasik, I will declare my conflict as noted earlier, and I will hand the meeting over to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Chirico. Your conflict has been noted. Are there any comments on this motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Opposed? And it is carried. Thank you.
Good for him.
Yeah, I think that's special. That's good. That's good.
You think it's a good thing? I
Why
thought
not?
you'd fight back against that.
Well, the guy's driving all around, using his car, and doesn't get paid much. So,
Which is true for a city this size.
yeah, it's
So
true.
what's he making? 80 grand?
About that. Yeah.
Not
about
even,
that.
probably.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
The guy's running. So this corporation that he's basically the head of is, he's making peanuts compared to what the corporations generate year to year, like $50 million or something like that.
Yeah. All I can draw upon for that in my experience is that when I was at the Nugget, we had a mileage situation because you had to have a car to be a reporter.
Right.
Right? So you were paid a mileage based on how much you use your car. How the city situation and doing an allowance instead, like does that overlap and you don't get mileage?
Well, probably not. No, you wouldn't, because it's going to be. This would be in lieu of, and probably the math of it, to be honest, is probably better for the taxpayers.
Yeah,
for how many the kilometers that they put on, especially the mayor. Right, mayor has always been, ever since I think Vic. Like the mayor has been everywhere. Like they travel everywhere and are at everything.
I don't think $7,000, $7,200 is a huge thing to.
It's still a taxable benefit to the mayor, so I'm sure he has to claim that in taxes. Becomes a taxable benefit. They'll be associated with that, so he'll be taxed at a higher rate for that taxable benefit than what he would normally get if it was gas mileage. Probably would have been more advantageous to him to get gas mileage, like so many cents a kilometer is how they do it, right?
I guess we'll know in a couple of years when he seeks some mileage. Anyways, it's small potatoes in the big picture.
Look at you, all nice to Peter.
I'll give Peter this one, right?
I think you're softening up. I like it. I like you softening up a little bit.
I don't
Maybe
know.
Peter will come on the show one day now that you're all soft and
No,
gushy.
I don't know. Who knows? I wouldn't promise being soft. I am softening up a little
You
bit.
are
This
softening
place
up a
is,
little bit.
you know.
Is softening you up?
Well, it's wearing me out.
It's wearing you out.
It's wearing me thin.
Yeah, because we're a collaborative group here, and you're not used to that.
No, I'm not. I'm used to being able to just be straight up with my opinion and not have to worry about the ramifications as much.
Yeah. Where here you have to worry about your opinion?
Well, I coach what I say, and I don't go to certain things because we're new, we're building, and I don't want to blow things out. I don't want to ruin it, the chance of this succeeding. Right, so I'm taking it step by step. But
that's
you know what?
learning.
I'm going to be doing a little bit more in my small town times. I'm going to start doing a little bit more opinion.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So when we're on here, I see you couch a little bit.
I got the North Bay Echo hat on.
I got you. But small town times,
that's just me.
That's going to be all you. So you might lean into some more touchier subjects.
Because I think after this time, people can see that, what we're trying to build here is good. Small Town Times has its own sort of mandate, and I might just get a little bit more opinionated with that.
Oh, I can't wait. Then we get to talk about that too. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, there's just one more thing that we're going to have, and I'm going to have a little bit of B-roll, but we're going to talk about the PFAS open house a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. I went there on the Thursday, but before we get into it, we got to thank another sponsor. And we'll be right back after that.
This weekend, make your way to Casey's Restaurant in North Bay for an unforgettable get-together. Dive into our delicious appetizers and enjoy the best drafts in town. It's the perfect spot to unwind, catch up with friends, and savor great flavors. Don't miss out on the fun. Join us at Casey's for a weekend filled with good food, great drinks, and even better company.
Well, several hundred people turned out at the open house for the PFAS meeting.
Do you know why they held it at Memorial Gardens in the
lobby?
Yeah, in the lobby. It seemed like it's strange for so many people why they hold it there. Because they were expecting a lot of people, or
well,
because you can use
they filled up
chambers.
the space they picked, and it was good attendance. I think the facilities there and the parking there, and it's free.
Huh. Okay.
Right? It kind of makes sense. The way they did it, I could see that working.
I don't think I've ever seen that. So on the weekend, I have to say, watching the national news, like CTV's national news, and then the little thing at the bottom that has shows different news in the news right now, national news. It says North Bay residents very upset about PFAS in the water. I went, oh my, okay, CTV's got us.
Yeah, I saw Eric there doing interviews, and all the media showed up and did something.
And what did you get the sense of it?
Well, I think some part of the frustrations were the format that they chose, where there was a presentations being made, but nobody could stand up and ask a question of the presenters. And they were told they would have to wait until after and go in groups or line up one-on-one.
Yeah.
And some people didn't get a chance to vent.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Or else you wouldn't get through all the presentations, right? If you open it up like that, you're not going to get through the presentations where many of the questions will be asked, only because we organize things like that. So I get why they would have done that. How was our friend
Karen?
Karen, yeah, the engineer.
Karen Pratt. She seemed like she had not a bad experience. I talked to her after the first presentation.
Yeah.
I missed part of the first presentation, so I stayed for the second, which things had calmed down, not as many people. She was getting a lot of questions about the same thing from people. And like one example I was talking to her about, and one of the questions people were like, well, what are we going to do? Is if you want to reduce your PFAS consumption at the home level, the health unit had 2 or 3 different examples of different type of water filtration systems that are out there. They didn't recommend one or the other. There was the
probably reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
There's
I should have them. There was
some sort of charcoal
filter, and then there was.
Me.
Hey,
haven't you been part of our interviews?
Yeah, well,
I was here for our interviews.
Yeah, I'm 59 now.
Well, oh, that's right. You are way older than me.
Yeah, technical stuff. But the problem is there's nowhere to put those filters. Though they're now considered hazardous waste once they filter out the PFAS.
Holy smokes. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Of course they would be. They're full of PFAS.
Yeah.
So what were people, like, the way I look at it, not that I'm not concerned. I am concerned, absolutely. But it's like, I'm not sure why people are so angry. We're in the process of cleaning it. We didn't know it was there. We've discovered it's there. We're cleaning. Why are people pissed off?
Well, they've been consuming it for 20 years.
Yeah.
They're just finding out about it. They haven't mitigated the cleanup spot yet, since even though they've known about it for 7 years. They've just, as far as the outsider looking in, 7 years, man. What happened? Well, COVID maybe, and a few other things. But now, I think the major fear for people is that they really don't know how this is affecting them.
Right.
And there's no answers. And there's all these...
Nor the experts probably aren't either. They probably don't know either, right?
No, they don't.
Yeah, okay.
And there's frustrations with them as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't believe the MOE and the DND are working very well together as well as it looks. And what I heard was DND was very reluctant to take responsibility at first. So I'd like to see the notes on those meetings. But
well, it's interesting how, not that I know exactly how it all works, but you would think in the DND, this is pre-approved products through the federal government that they can use for fire suppression.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like a bunch of generals sitting around like, what's the best stuff we can get and make it super toxic? Like, that's not how it happens. There's professionals that make the recommendations on here's what to use. So, you know, I'm trying to think why it's D&D's problem. Probably it was their property. They were using it, but... You know, there was other experts that made the call for D&D to use it.
Again, D&D, federal government, they're responsible for everything that they do on federal land at the time they owned it. It doesn't matter. You did something that caused some problems, and those problems are growing exponentially.
But so we were, like I said, we were in the national news in that little snippet or whatever. I'm sure the story was probably run if they were putting a snippet in. But I'm making some big assumptions here, but I'm just going to say that I would think every airport used the same sort of fire suppression, you know, and they would have practiced with it. They would have. So this problem isn't, you know, exclusive to us in North Bay.
Oh, no.
It would be all over that has these problems.
Well, I'll tell you, there was a class action suit in the States where they sued the source chemical company that made it, and multi-billion-dollar judgment, and they're looking at a similar class action suit here in Canada.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
And municipalities will be involved with that. Because they're going to be in the end result, they'll have to pay for the filtration plant. The provinces don't fight necessarily these cases. Municipalities will have to join it, right?
Holy, and that will be ridiculous amounts of money if we have to, you know, figure out to change our current water treatment plant would be probably pretty crazy. And again, we'll end up paying as taxpayers.
Yeah.
So when we say, well, the city's got to pay for it, well, that's us.
All the tax money from every level will end up having to pay for this type of thing. And that's why the province, the feds, and the municipalities will have to go to court against this company and look for amends.
Oh, my gosh. I'm exhausted.
The thing about the filters, when the municipality chooses which filter process they want to do, they'll be able to get rid of their filters because they'll have bulk and they'll be able to use the Sarnia where the dirt's going to get cleaned, right?
They're taking the dirt to Sarnia?
The dirt all goes to Sarnia to get cleaned and come back, yeah.
And they bring the dirt back again?
Well, it's more expensive if you leave it there, apparently. I haven't got the I'm just somebody talking in my ear while I'm at the...
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know where it went. I had no idea where it goes. So they actually take the dirt away.
Yeah, whenever you have
they clean it?
A brown field that needs to get cleaned,
yeah.
There's only one real spot in Ontario to do it, and it's down in Sarnia. Yeah. And that's the process. And
I just in my head always thought, oh, there's some real toxic area they put it in and they put it there and we'll deal with it. Our grandkids will have to deal with it. No, they actually clean the dirt, Brownlands.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how often we can do these council ones. This is exhausting.
Yeah, well, we'll be just do a couple instead of this many.
Yeah, we can't do this all the time.
This is too much.
I'm sure there's nobody listening now. It's just me, you, and your mom.
And Ben.
No, Ben. Ben checked out a long time ago.
I think he's checking his phone.
Checked out.
Yeah. How's the football game going? Yeah. Well, there we go. What else is happening in your world? Anything?
No.
You didn't get your truck yet?
Not yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Lots of fun,
All done.
Yeah.
Come on, this has been long enough. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, let's wrap it up. Thank you very much. This has been another edition of Echo Essentials Podcast.
I'm Scott Clark.
And I'm Dave Dale. And we appreciate when you like, comment, and share, please. That'd be nice. And subscribe to the newsletter. Thank you. Bye.